The encounter. Maya sat on the worn bench in the corner of the park, half-heartedly picking at her sandwich. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over the quiet afternoon. The park had a peaceful charm, trees stretching their limbs to the sky, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. Children's laughter echoed in the distance, blending with the sounds of birds chirping, and a few joggers zipped past in rhythmic silence. It was the kind of day where the world felt still, almost like the calm before a storm. But Maya wasn't thinking about storms, she was thinking about something much simpler, her sandwich. She was an ordinary 25-year-old woman, or at least she felt ordinary. Life had a way of demanding more from you than you thought you could give. Maya's days were usually filled with work, something mundane but important. She was an office assistant at a small advertising firm. Her job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. She lived alone in a modest apartment, far from the hustle and bustle of downtown, with only her cat Otis for company. It wasn't a bad life, just a quiet one. Or it had been, until recently. Maya's fingers lingered on the edge of the sandwich, the crust still warm from the bakery. But something in the air made her pause. The breeze shifted, carrying with it an almost imperceptible scent, like smoke, but not exactly. She frowned and glanced around, but the park seemed unchanged, save for a few people scattered here and there. She shifted her focus back to her sandwich, shaking her head slightly. It was probably just the wind. Her eyes, however, had wandered off the sandwich again. Across the park, nestled beneath the shade of a large oak tree, something moved. It was small and quick, darting in and out of the shadows like a flicker of light. Maya squinted, trying to make sense of it. Her heart skipped a beat. Was it a bird? A squirrel? No, it was something else entirely. Maya's breath hitched as the creature stepped into the open, a small, scaly creature no bigger than a cat, with shimmering emerald-green scales that caught the fading sunlight. Its wings were delicate, folding and unfolding with nervous energy. It had large, expressive eyes that glistened with curiosity, and for a moment, it locked eyes with Maya as though it had known her for a lifetime. Her heart raced in disbelief. What was that? The creature, a dragon of some sort, Maya was certain of it, crept closer, its tiny claws scraping against the ground as it moved. A shiver ran down her spine. She wanted to run, to stand up and flee, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the innocence in those wide eyes, or the fact that it was clearly lost and confused, its small body trembling in the unfamiliar surroundings. It took another tentative step closer, and Maya couldn't help herself, she held out the sandwich, her fingers trembling. "You hungry?" she asked, her voice soft. The baby dragon sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring as it hesitated. For a moment, it seemed to consider the offer, eyeing the food and then glancing up at Maya as if searching for some sign of danger. But there was nothing dangerous about her, at least, nothing she could tell. Finally, the dragon took a hesitant step forward and sniffed at the sandwich. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air, before it slowly nibbled the corner of the bread. Maya let out a small laugh, her nerves easing. It wasn't as crazy as it seemed, just a baby dragon, right? As the creature devoured the piece of sandwich, Maya watched in awe. She had seen creatures like it in documentaries and fantasy films, but never in real life. She had always dismissed the idea of dragons existing as pure fantasy. Yet here it was, right in front of her, eating a sandwich as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Recognition. "You're a little odd, aren't you?" Maya said softly, amused by the dragon's antics as it gobbled down the bread. It paused for a moment, looked up at her with its bright eyes, and tilted its head as if to acknowledge her words. Maya smiled. "I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. It's been that kind of day." The dragon finished off the last of the sandwich and then looked up at her again, eyes wide with what could only be described as gratitude. It stepped back a little, its wings fluttering in excitement, and Maya couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth toward it. She had a soft spot for animals, and there was something undeniably adorable about the creature. But just as quickly as the warmth settled in, an unsettling thought crept into her mind. Where did it come from? How had it gotten here? It was too small, too fragile to be wandering alone, especially in a public park. Maya glanced around again, more urgently this time. There was no one else near her bench, no sign of any other creatures. Had it escaped from somewhere? Had it been abandoned? Before she could make sense of her thoughts, she heard a faint noise from behind her, a rustling, followed by the sound of footsteps on the gravel path. Her heart skipped a beat. Maya's eyes darted over her shoulder, but she saw nothing. The rustling continued, now louder, closer, and then, nothing. She whipped her head back toward the dragon. It was gone. Vanished. Maya blinked in confusion, her mind reeling. She hadn't even seen it fly away. It was just, gone. Hello? She called out hesitantly, her voice tinged with panic. Is anyone there? No answer. Her gaze returned to the spot where the dragon had been, searching the shadows for any sign of movement, but there was nothing. Just the empty park, the distant hum of the city, and the quiet murmur of people enjoying their afternoon. Yet Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. A chill ran down her spine, but she couldn't explain it. Her mind raced through a dozen possibilities. Was she just imagining things? Was it the dragon's disappearance that had left her feeling so unsettled? The footsteps came again, now louder and more distinct. Maya turned sharply, her heart racing. This time, someone stepped into view, a man, tall, dark-haired, with an expression that seemed almost too intense for the quiet park. He wore a coat despite the warm weather, and he wasn't walking, he was observing, his eyes scanning the area with unsettling precision. It was then that Maya noticed something strange about him. His eyes, they glowed faintly, a subtle shimmer beneath the surface, almost like the dragon's. For a fleeting moment, she could have sworn they glimmered with the same otherworldly green. And then he looked directly at her. Maya's breath caught in her throat. For a long moment, she couldn't move. There was something in his gaze, recognition, perhaps, or maybe something deeper. He seemed to be studying her, as if trying to piece together a puzzle. The man took a step closer, and Maya felt her pulse quicken. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low and measured. "Did you see anything unusual here? A creature, perhaps?" Maya's mind raced. How could he know about the dragon? Had he been watching her? I'm not sure what you mean," she stammered, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. The man's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment, Maya thought she saw them flash with that same green light again. "I think you do," he said quietly. "And I think you know more than you realize." Revelation. Far across the galaxy, in the sterile corridors of the military citadel of Kareth, Commander Jace received his orders with the same cold precision he'd applied to every mission for the past 15 years. The briefing room hummed with the familiar blue glow of tactical displays, and Admiral Tyne's voice cut through the air like a blade. Target designation, unknown draconic entity. Location, Canyon Systems, Yaris Prime. Mission parameters, search and destroy. Jace stood at attention, his neural blade secured at his side, the weapon that had never failed him in countless battles. He'd faced down hive breeds in the tunnels of Yaris 7, held the western wall of KTH against rebel incursions, even survived the psychic backlash of a dying mind flare. This should have been just another assignment. But something felt different this time. As his stealth cruiser descended through the red mist of the canyon, Jace found himself thinking about the reports. A dragon, the first confirmed sighting in over a decade. The Senate was in panic, calling for immediate extermination. Dragons were myths, legends, extinct creatures from a forgotten age. Yet here was proof of their existence, and it had to be eliminated before word spread. The canyon stretched before him like a wound in the planet's surface, carved deep into red rock and shadow. His scanners detected movement, large, reptilian, hiding in the depths. Jace landed his cruiser on a ridge and descended on foot, his weapon ready. He found the dragon in a circular clearing, as if it had been waiting for him. It was magnificent, easily 20 feet long, scales that shifted between deep emerald and gold in the strange light of the canyon. Its eyes were ancient, intelligent, and when it spoke, its voice resonated not through the air but directly into Jace's mind. So they sent you. Jace raised his neural blade, its core igniting with a white hum. By order of the Kareth Senate, you are to be terminated. Surrender or. Brother. The word hit Jace like a physical blow. His blade wavered, and for the first time in his military career, his voice caught in his throat. What did you say? The dragon's massive head tilted, studying him with those piercing eyes. You don't remember, do you? They took that from you when they took you from me. You're lying. But even as he said it, Jace felt something stirring deep in his memory, flashes of images that didn't belong to his sterile military upbringing. Warmth. Safety. A nest carved into stone. Your scar burns when you lie to yourself, the dragon said softly. Jace's hand moved instinctively to his jawline, to the thin curved mark he'd carried since childhood, the mark the military doctors claimed was from a training accident. It was burning, not with heat, but with recognition. You were taken from me when you were a hatchling, the dragon continued. Yes, that's what you were, human, but more. Something new. Something they feared. You're delusional. Jace gripped his blade tighter, but his arm trembled. I protect people. I don't burn cities. You think you're protecting Kareth, that floating citadel of lies? They found me first, brother, before you. They dissected my kin, studied our blood. And when they found you in my nest, they didn't see a child, they saw a weapon. The canyon rumbled beneath them, distant seismic tremors like something large shifting far below. Jace's mind reeled as fragments of suppressed memories began to surface, a voice singing to him in the darkness, the scent of sulfur and safety, the feeling of belonging somewhere that wasn't made of metal and orders. They gave you their name, their numbers, but your soul, it still burns. Jace advanced a step, blade raised, but his movements felt mechanical, desperate. I don't care what delusion you believe. My orders are clear. The dragon stared a moment longer, then finally took a slow step back, its wings unfurling slightly, casting long shadows. Then come find me, brother. Come and learn the truth. But if you raise that blade now, there will be no return. It turned slowly and vanished into the red mist without a sound. Jace stood there for a moment, breathing hard, blade trembling in his grip. He didn't follow. Not yet. Discovery. The return to Kareth was silent. The moment Jace landed, command scrambled for answers. Admiral Tyne appeared on the comm with a fury that barely hid her alarm. What do you mean you let it go? I made contact. It didn't attack. You were sent to eliminate the threat, not talk it down like some pet gone astray. Jace's voice was stone. It wasn't a threat. Not yet. And it spoke to me. That brought the room to stillness. Tyne blinked. It what? It spoke directly through neural resonance. That's impossible. Apparently not. She leaned forward on the screen. What did it say? He hesitated. It thinks I'm one of its kind. The silence this time was deeper, even the background noise of officers and systems faded. Tyne narrowed her eyes. You're under psychological review immediately. I'm not hallucinating. Then it's manipulating you. Maybe. But we can't just kill something we don't understand. She turned cold. The Senate won't wait. They've already seen the footage. Panic is spreading through the upper rings. Your orders are reinstated, you are to return, locate, and terminate the creature. Jace said nothing. Tyne's image flickered and vanished. He stood in the briefing room, the red light of the moon pouring through the high glass behind him. A figure approached quietly, Dr. Elena Voss from the research division. She didn't speak right away, just placed a tablet on the console beside him. "It's not the first time," she said softly. He looked at her. "There have been others. Sightings. Children with abnormal DNA markers, neural activity that doesn't match the human norm. They vanish, or are reassigned." Jace stared at the screen. It showed files, redacted names, burial logs, medical reports marked classified. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because someone has to. And because you're not the only one who's ever felt different." He studied her face, saw no lies. "You believe it?" "I believe there's more to you than they let you know. I believe Kareth hides things. And if that creature is your blood, then we've been fighting the wrong war." He turned away. "And if it's lying? Then at least we'll know." 3 hours later, Jace left Kareth without permission. He took a stealth cruiser and scrubbed its transponder, flying low and silent just above the toxic forests. He went alone. This time, he followed the pulse. The dragon's call wasn't just a broadcast now that he knew how to listen, he felt it like a vibration in his bones, a magnetic pull, something ancient and wrong and familiar. It tugged at him past the ridges, through valleys, down into forgotten canyons lit by bioluminescent moss and crystal veins. At the end of a ravine, he found it. Not the dragon, a door. Massive, round, buried in the stone like a wound stitched shut with rusted wires. It hummed faintly with old power, and something within it stirred as he approached. He stepped carefully over broken tiles and vines. Symbols were etched across the metal, curved glyphs, not human but oddly symmetrical. The door read him before he could touch it. Lights flared in a ring, mechanisms groaned, and it opened. Inside was not what he expected. No ruin, no cave, a chamber, pristine white metal, lights, technology far beyond anything Kareth possessed. And in the center, floating in a column of soft blue light, was a crystal containing what looked like genetic material. The dragon's voice whispered in his mind from somewhere behind him, "This is where you were born, brother. Where we were both born. Where they made us." Truth. Jace spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon, but the dragon stood peacefully at the chamber's entrance. In this ancient place, surrounded by technology that predated both their civilizations, the creature seemed less like a monster and more like what it claimed to be, family. Long ago, the dragon's voice continued in his mind, there was a race that sought to bridge the gap between species. They took the best of human intellect and dragon essence, creating beings who could understand both worlds. "We are their legacy, brother, not weapons, but peacemakers." Jace stared at the floating crystal, his reflection distorted in its surface. The military said dragons were extinct. That they were dangerous. They are dangerous, to those who profit from war. We were meant to end conflicts, not start them. But Kareth found this place first, took you as an infant, and raised you to be their perfect soldier. They told you we were enemies because they needed you to believe it. The chamber's lights pulsed gently, and suddenly Jace was flooded with memories that weren't his own, or perhaps were his own but had been buried deep. He saw himself as a child, not in the sterile barracks of Kareth, but in a warm nest surrounded by creatures who looked at him with love, not expectation. "Maya," he whispered suddenly, the name coming from nowhere. "Yes. She met our youngest sibling today. The one who escaped when Karetha's forces found this place again. He led them away from here, but not before making contact with someone pure of heart." Jace felt tears he hadn't shed in years burning his eyes. "What am I supposed to do? I've spent my whole life serving them." "You're supposed to choose," the dragon said, stepping closer. "Continue being their weapon, or become what you were meant to be, a bridge between worlds." In the distance, Jace could hear the sound of engines approaching. Kareth had found him. His communicator crackled to life with Admiral Tyne's voice, "Commander, stand down immediately. You are in violation of direct orders." Jace looked at his neural blade, then at the dragon who called him brother. For the first time in his life, the choice was truly his to make. He dropped the weapon. "Welcome home, brother." The dragon extended one massive wing, and as Jace stepped forward to touch it, he felt something he'd never experienced in all his years of military service: peace. When the Kareth forces stormed the chamber moments later, they found it empty save for a single message carved into the metal floor: "The war is over." Miles away, in a small park where an ordinary woman named Maya sat on a bench, a small dragon with emerald scales landed softly beside her. But this time, it wasn't alone. A man with kind eyes and a warrior's bearing approached, no longer carrying weapons, but extending his hand in friendship. "Hello, Maya," Jace said softly. "I think it's time we all learned the truth about what it means to build bridges instead of walls." As the three unlikely companions sat together in the fading afternoon light, the dragon purred contentedly, and for the first time in years, the galaxy seemed a little less broken, a little more whole. The end.